Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind. I sense a shift in the winds, you know? There's a couple things that should be nonpartisan, and I think one of those things is the absolute replacement of the old political guard. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Independent, Republican, Liberal, Conservative, middle ground, fence sitter, whatever it is. I think we can all agree that these politician fossils who want to spend a lifetime in politics enriching themselves and effing you over, I think we can all agree that these people are awful and should be kind of removed from the whole picture, right? Within the world of Republican politics, these individuals are referred to as rhinos, or I guess the concept of draining the swamp. Well, you know, I've criticized the left over the years as pretending to be anti-establishment, but every single time falling in line with the Washington cronies. Well, maybe, just maybe, it seems as though that might be changing. It seems as though we might be reaching an inflection point in the world of politics in general, where both left and right, the thought process is these days, clean house, get rid of all of these freaking clowns, and let's try to put some new talent in there. Because a major, and I mean major Democrat heavy hitter, a top Democrat politician who has been involved in politics for decades, just lost in a landslide. We're talking about Sheila Jackson Lee here. I covered, the campaign, I guess, briefly. Mainly the one scandal or leaked phone call. Well, Sheila Jackson Lee just got BTFO'd in the Houston mayoral election race. Here's why this is good news for everyone. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, take a look at the headline. It's a beautiful one. Sheila Jackson Lee loses Houston mayor's race to tough-on-crime state senator. Democratic State Senator John Whitmire defeated Democrat Representative Sheila Jackson Lee in the Houston mayoral race in Saturday's runoff election after a campaign heavily focused on voter concerns over safety on the streets. Whitmire, a perennial tough-on-crime voice who for decades heralded Texas regulations over public safety, was declared the winner by the Associated Press with a 57% reporting. At that point, Whitmire was leading by an almost 2-to-1 margin. With backing from the city's fire department and police unions and a multi-million-dollar campaign war chest, Whitmire was the early favorite in the race and finished first in the 18-candidate general election in November. When no candidate secured 50% of the vote, the race went to a runoff. Whitmire leaned on a coalition of moderate Democrats, independents, and conservative voters, with a prominent campaign promise to make the city safer with increased policing. City elections are officially nonpartisan in Houston, the country's fourth largest city with more than 2.3 million people, but Democrats have held office since 1982. And so this is big. There were two real options for voters in Houston. Unfortunately, the two options were Democrats, but hey, it is what it is. There was Sheila Jackson Lee, Nancy Pelosi's buddy, top Democrat official, part of the Trump impeachment, part of, the whole Democrat circus in Washington, somebody with big establishment power and influence, with major Democrat donors behind her. And then you had a more moderate Democrat with a tough-on-crime policy stance, appealing to conservatives, moderates, and Democrats. He won, and that signals really a shift. Let's go back to where Mayor Bill de Blasio lost to Eric Adams. Now, at the time, Eric Adams was leaning on the fact that he was a police chief, and he really marketed himself as a tough-on-crime Democrat. Now, Eric Adams didn't exactly turn out to be a tough-on-crime mayor in the end, but he certainly ran on that type of campaign, and even in woke Manhattan, he became the mayor, surprisingly enough. That was followed up in 2022, where Lee Zeldin almost beat Kathy Hochul. In the 2022 midterms, a tough-on-crime Republican overperformed by a huge freaking margin. And now Sheila Jackson Lee loses in Houston to a tough-on-crime Democrat. Folks, this signals a trend. This signals something that is obviously happening in major Democrat cities. It's a response to this.
It's a normal afternoon on the doorstep of San Francisco's main government building.
$1 billion apartments.
It's a response to the smash and grabs, the assaults on the streets, the armed robberies, the carjackings, the mentally ill homeless people being let back out on the streets over and over again, the revolving door of the Democrat crime system that takes people in and spits them back out with a slap on the wrist only to recommit and reoffend. People are sick of it. And what I think they're really sick of, and I'm speaking to Democrats here, what I think Democrats are really sick of are the politicians who get elected by their constituents in these cities, only to go to Washington, never to be seen again, to do the nonstop media tour, spending all their time in Washington on all the big news cable networks, talking about Washington and federal politics, talking about Trump this and Trump that and Trump this and Trump that, completely ignoring the chaos that they leave behind in their districts and their cities for their constituents to deal with. Adam Schiff's the perfect example, a California House representative who doesn't even live in California. He bought a one-bedroom studio apartment just so he could run there to be Nancy Pelosi's little minion. It's the perfect example. There's all kinds of issues in California, obviously, but where's Adam Schiff? Freaking nowhere to be seen. In Washington, trying to impeach Donald Trump. In Washington, doing the media tour on Rachel Maddow's show every night, saying there's more than circumstantial evidence. We're going to get Donald Trump. Trump this, Trump that. Meanwhile, your constituents, the people you actually represent, are sitting there empty-handed, with nothing, with no real representation, with no results. Then one of these clown House representatives thinks they could come back with all the name recognition and all the fame to run for the mayor's office in one of the biggest and most significant cities in America? Give me a freaking break. An absolutely brutal defeat, losing by a 2-1 margin. She got blasted into outer space on this, as the voters sent a very clear message that they are done with establishment, do-nothing politicians, and most importantly, a further rejection on Democrat rhetoric, or I'd argue non-rhetoric, on the issue of crime. The refusal to acknowledge the existence of heightened crime levels, the refusal to acknowledge what business owners and citizens have to deal with on a daily basis, and the refusal to say or do anything about it because they're more focused on their perception in the world of woke academia. They're more concerned over the woke mob coming after them as bigoted racists for adopting tough on crime policies. They're more focused on the media, on perception, on electability in a general sense. By maintaining young voters, they're more interested in that and party politics than representing their actual voters and their concerns. That's the sad state of American politics. It's supposed to be representative democracy. You send somebody to Washington to air your grievances and to accomplish for your people and your city, your community. But instead, they all walk in a line to get in Nancy Pelosi's little pocket, to get fed all those lobbyist bucks, only to become mindless partisan drones, pushing the DCCC's talking points instead of doing their damn jobs. Sheila Jackson Lee is done. Good frickin' riddance. Folks, if Congress won't enact term limits, you can't complain and you can't blame. At the end of the day, the voters themselves can enact their own term limits. It was done here, and now hopefully this becomes a major trend moving forward. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Of course, you know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, friends, and I'll see you on the next one.